What's up, guys? It's Eli here with my Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm going to talk about a topic today about, I've looked at back attacks and stuff, but I realized, well, Anya realized for me the other day, she's like, you haven't done one just on back controls. So that's really valuable because you don't want to be the dog chasing the car where you did all this work, you did something really good, or they did something really stupid, you got on the back, but then you can't maintain it, or they're just shutting down all your attacks, you got to transition to something else. That's a really defeating feeling. So let's talk about it. If I get here on Anya's back somehow, and the entry is, that's a different video. But basically when I'm trying to establish back control, I need to think about this. Anything about chest to back connection is one of the most imperative things that we can think about. Once I establish that though, I've got to have something keeping me here. So I'm going to use my hooks, which are my legs, and then I'm going to use my seat belt of some kind. Now this could be double unders initially. We could even be in like a crab ride kind of situation, but the main thing is once I get here, I kind of like to have a seat belt of some kind. Now on the seat belt, when this connection is here, I tend to favor the underhook side reinforcing the overhook side, because if I go this way, this doesn't really make as much sense, because this is the attacking arm, this is one closest to her neck, so it's the more important one, so it receives the help of the underhook side. I want to keep it up nice and high, and I want to keep it slightly off center. The more centered and low it is, the better she can start her defenses. Now it's important to keep in mind she's got three main things that she's defending with. She's got her two arms, which are her most valuable things, but she also has her chin. So just ducking the chin and turning the head is a defense in itself. So I've got to counter all those different measures. Now to do that, I can take her to either the overhook side or the underhook side. I can attack from here, but we're not going to be in this position long, let's be honest. We're going to be on one side or the other. So first let's talk about the overhook side. The overhook side is not my favorite. I prefer the underhook, but there's good arguments for both. When we fall to the this side over here, now one big advantage that she has a clearer route to get her head to the floor. That's not good for me because once her head gets there, her shoulders are going to start sliding away from me. I'm going to lose my chest to back connection and she's going to look to escape. So I've got to counter those kind of things. So first let's talk about the arms. Again, I'm keeping this seatbelt nice, high and tight off center, but I'm also expanding my chest into her back to keep that chest connection really secure here. Now I also want to be thinking about immediately when we get here, what are my hooks doing? This one really needs to be accentuated, so it needs to be up nice and high. If your person is smaller, your opponent's small enough, you can body triangle and then trying to hook this leg here, and this is going to make it really uncomfortable for them. It's going to impact their breathing and everything else. So this is really good if you can get it. You can't always get it though. The other things I can do, I can step here like this and keep this squeezed in nice and tight. I've still got my deep hook on this side. Alternately, I can also cross my ankles between her legs like this, one behind, one in front, and clamp the hip on this side. This way, if she tries to take her hips away from me, it's impossible. She'd have to break her pelvis or break my leg to do it. So this is another good control. Now, if nothing else, we can go here. We tend not to want to cross our ankles because if she throws her leg over, then she can look to pop my ankle like that, and that's really a bad situation. So this is not optimal, it's not the end all be all and you can get away with it. But we get here, now what are we gonna look to do? So the next thing that I'll need to think about doing, maintaining my chest back connection with whatever hooks that I have established here. I wanna think about dismantling her defense, right? So initially, as I start to think about choking, and she's on the choking arm, which is optimal, so that's good. I wanna think about as I start to weave inside, I grab the blade of her hand here by the pinky knuckle and I'm gonna shove it down and I'm gonna go up at the same time. Now she just has one hand essentially to defend with. So that I can get this arm here back in battery, I'm gonna like take this a step over. I wanna try to get my foot, my shoelaces all the way to her back if I can, but as long as I don't allow her to swim back inside, this is good. Once this arm is pulled back out, now I can come over and I can start to defend her other arm. So, or defend against her other arm, right? So when we're here like this, I'm still kind of choking up on this choking arm here and I'm keeping this one out of range. So now I need to think about how do I get underneath her chin, because her chin is the last line of defense here, right? So at that point here now, I can start to think about lifting. I can use this to lift up. It's not the nicest thing in the world, but it does expose her chin. And so now I can start to come underneath. This is not the optimal choking arm, but it's good enough to maintain the space while I swim back in one more time here. And then now I can come back in for either my short choke or, if there's space, my full rear naked choke, right? So we'll talk about the details of the choke some other time. So that's some things that are really good for me to do on that overhook side. If I fall to the underhook side, which is the one that I personally prefer, and this is why. When we go here, I want to think about getting a little bit more perpendicular. I'm keeping my chest to back connection, but I'm going to look to get a little more perpendicular. And so to do that, I'm going to bring this leg all the way across her body, and I'm going to turn like I'm going to look up at her from this position. So this way my head is between her head and the floor. So now she's not going to be able to get her head to the floor, then her shoulders, then her hips, and escape. So this is another good thing. So now when we're in this position, I'm gonna do the same thing essentially. This, again, this leg is up nice and high. If I could body triangle, I would, right? Or just stack my 2 feet on this side. But as we go here, she's gonna look to be fighting my hands. I'm gonna weave through here. If this is difficult, here's a little bonus dirty trick you can do where I can just grab my 2 hands together and wrist lock her right here. I don't expect her to tap to this. She might, but she'd probably just rip her hand out, right? So either way, that's good because now she's not grabbing mine. I've got the pinky knuckle. I'm gonna shove this one down and I'm gonna shove this one up at the same time. Now, once we do this, now she's still pulling on this one, so we're gonna play a little tug of war game, and then I'm gonna let go of the rope. I like to put my leg on top of her elbow and make that heavy so I can start prying and creating space and separation between her hand and her chest, where I'm gonna step over, and again, I'm gonna do that same thing I did on the other side, where I block down by her bicep. Now, I can start to come back inside. If I can get under her chin here, I can do a 1-arm choke, but I don't do it by squeezing. Instead, I hold her trap and I pull my elbow back toward me, and it's more forearm, so it's a little bit more of a tracheal kind of choke instead of a strangle. But I can also use this hand to free my bottom arm, either by grabbing the wrist or the elbow or the shoulder and picking this up, and now I let this shoot underneath and I can go back again to my short choke like this, right? So this is a way that I can keep this kind of perpendicular frame, but I still have my good chest to back connection, right? So one more time, we're here, I let this, we go here, I push her hand down, I come up, she's fighting my hand again, I open that space, I step over, I shoot back in and try to get that space open here. 1-arm choke is available, or possibly freeing this one here. If I don't feel like that's just gonna happen, this arm is still trapped, then what I can do is I can look to start to hike this up a little bit more this way and get all the way on top of her shoulder. Now, I don't have the chest to back connection any longer, but I do have my hips in the center of her back, so I do have good control over her shoulder carriage. Both of her armpits are exposed and my legs are inside here like this. So now we can start to look up to a set of things like triangles, where I can rock over to the side, close up the triangle here, and then reach back to lock it. I can get the triangle from here, or possibly just go back to the arm lock if I don't feel like I'm getting the triangle. Now, one last note here of ways that I can dismantle her defensive measures with her arms is when we're in this position, if she is trying to attack my arm and I don't feel like I can open it up to get under her arm, I can wrap over the arm like this. So this is another good way to dismantle her defense, right? So I wrap over the arm here, and now I can feed, if this reaches, I can feed this, right? So now I've got both of her arms tied up, my leg is involved, but I've got free arm, free leg on this side. So what can I do with that? I can either motivate her to turn and face me as we go back here, and then look to feed her into a triangle, right? So that way I can look to set up a triangle from there, so she's turning to face me inside my guard. Or one other that I can look to do if she's not taking that bait, so I've overwrapped the arm, I've gotten the wrist here, I can shove her head away and I can get my leg behind. Now from here I can feed in for that cigar cutter style arm bar like that. So now I know I started this out by saying not specifically focusing on the attacks from here, but more about the connections, but sometimes the connections are the attacks and they're so intrinsically linked, you kind of have to understand one to understand the other fully. You also have to understand her defensive measures, how she's gonna look to escape, what her hips and shoulders are gonna do the whole time to be able to reverse engineer that and get your better controls from the back. So hopefully this was very helpful, regardless of what stage you're in. You hopefully picked up a little nugget out of this, and I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you, Anya, and thank you guys. Keep watching Night Jiu-Jitsu channel, guys.